a more traditional yoga class tonight. Had some very nice feedback on YouTube about the shoulder one, but not so much the focus on shoulders today. Please come and sit in Swastikasana, just loose cross-leg pose. And then I'm sitting on a folded blanket just to make sure I've got a little bit of lift in the spine and the pelvis. So the idea here in Swastikasana is that the knees should be heavy towards the floor as opposed towards the hips. So if you're feeling the knees are a bit elevated, the way to address that is to take more support underneath the sit bones. You can have 2 or 3 blocks even. And then please just change the cross of your legs to your non-preferred first choice. Pull the buttock flesh out of the way on either side. Think of just gently allowing the lower tummy to push out towards the pubic bone. So you can feel it. It's as though you're trying to imprint, press down the sit bones into the support. And if you can manage to find that, it will help to lengthen the front and the back of the body and the crown of the head. Bring the fingertips to the floor beside you and just draw the inner edges of the shoulder blades slightly together as again you press down through the fingertips. And then once you feel you've got the full length in the front and the back of the body, please bring the palms together into Namaskarasana. Palms just evenly making contact, and then close the eyes to begin the class. As you close the eyes, careful not to let the head drop forward, keeping length in the back of the neck. And begin to draw your attention to your breath, so noticing your inhalations and your exhalations. And each time in particular that you inhale, see if you can feel that slight lengthening of the pubic bone down as the breastbone lengthens towards the ceiling. So that slight sense of extension in the spine, and it's that renewed commitment to pressing the sit bones down into the surface. And as you keep some attention on the breath, then just see if you can identify any areas of tension that may be with you as we begin the class. So usually a good place to start is the eyes, just allowing the eyes to soften. Think of a slight space between the lower teeth and the upper teeth, and the tongue just resting in the bottom palate. Just feeling the breath travel through. It's this little wave that creates a slight sense of extension or lift in the spine as you breathe in. And as you exhale, you're trying not to give in to the exhalation and not trying to collapse, but just keep the length in the spine. Now keep the lift in the chest, but slowly nod the forehead in the direction of the fingertips. Keep the eyes closed as you release the palms to the inner knees. And then on inhalation, slowly open the eyes and look up. So please come to stand. Stand in probably the middle of the mat is a good idea. And begin with the feet together in Tadasana. So the ball of the big toes are together, inner heels are together, with the arms just long by your side. And as you come into Tadasana, just do a little check that your weight isn't in the front of the feet. So there are a number of ways that can happen, is either by trying to stand too much in too straight in effectively a back bend. Another is that the pelvis is just coming slightly forward. Another is where you're leaning forward. So you want to feel about 80% of the weight in the heels. And a good way to check that is just to lift the front of one foot and then the other. And that tells you that most of the weight is in the heels. Whereas if the weight was in the front of the feet, you'd have to do a big adjustment, taking the pelvis out of the way to be able to lift the front of the feet. And then just roll the shoulder blades slightly together, so not pinching them so much that it pushes the ribs forward, but just a slight sense of the inner edges of the shoulder blades drawing together, with the arms just long, comfortably down by the side. Now, just check as you've come into Tadasana that you're not gripping into the wrists, you're not extending in the wrists, the arms just long but soft. And then really think of the thigh muscles, so above the kneecap, the middle of the thigh and the top of the thighs, sucking those up and back into the bone. You're trying to seal the muscles and the skin back into the bones. Just nice, easy breathing, looking forward on your horizon. And just if you just do a little experiment, if you try and focus on the screen, so you narrow the vision on the screen, can you feel what it does in the neck and the balance? Actually, it brings the weight forward towards the front of the feet. So really, I know you're focusing on the screen, but try to have as panoramic a vision as possible to feel how that brings the eyes back in space over the heels too. And then see, can you bring your right arm out to the side at shoulder height, and then hopefully from last week your shoulders are still feeling quite mobile. Roll the shoulder back to turn the palm up, and then extend the arm up towards the ceiling into Ardha Hastasana arms. Now just bring the fingertips of the opposite hand to remind the tricep flesh to roll in, and then release the left arm down by the side. And then carefully bring the right arm back down, same pathway, and then bring the left arm to shoulder height, roll the shoulder to turn the palm, and then extend this arm up towards the ceiling. Again, just bring the fingertips of the right hand to remind that tricep flesh, so just as the quadriceps are sucking back to the bone, so the tricep flesh is too. Good. And then release that arm down by the side, and then think of taking both arms up into Ardha Hastasana arms. So we all need an extra pair of arms just to remind those triceps of the correct action. But just check again that you're not trying to hold the arms up by stiffening into the wrists or the palms. Just nice, easy breathing. And then release the arms back down by the side. Now, bring the arms forward this time to shoulder height. Interlace the palms for Badangulyasana. Turn the palms away. Careful that you're not, though, protracting the shoulders. So you just want them sitting nice and neutrally on the rib cage. And then begin to take the arms overhead, but just monitoring, of course, the ribs and the trunk. So just as when we do this on the back, you don't want the ribs to shoot forward, trying to keep that sense of connection, the ribs knitted together as you extend the arms overhead. And then just grip the elbows towards each other as you think of turning the little finger sides of the hands down towards the floor behind you, but pressing up through the base of the index finger and the root of the thumb. And then release the arms forward, change the interlace to your non-first choice again, turn the palms away without protracting the shoulders, and then begin to extend the arms overhead. Excuse me, again, once more, the elbows draw together, the little finger sides turn down towards the floor behind you, as though you're pressing down into the heels and up into the palms of the hands too. And then release the arms down by the side, and then please have your chair to hand. So just going to use it instead of a wall really, as a little bit of support for balance today. If you have a wall, you can always use a wall. And stand this time with your feet about hip distance apart. So my right hand I'm mirroring can just rest on the chair. Now pour the weight down into your right leg. So pouring it down. So the left side of the pelvis hitches up slightly to do that. What you want to try and avoid is this dipping into the hip. So again, press down into the heel, the right heel, keep that buttock flesh outer buttock flesh sucked in, and then turn the right leg out, sorry, the left left leg out, if I'm mirroring, and bring that foot just above the right ankle. So just a simple version of tree pose or Vrikshasana. As you've brought that foot up again, just check that the hip hasn't pushed out towards the back of the chair. So you want to keep the right outer hip sucked in. Check that the tummy is still against the spine. Breath nice and easy. Your vision still panoramic. And then could you take your left arm out to the side and up towards the ceiling for this version of Vrikshasana. Now, if you are comfortable with the balance, bring the right arm up too. Good. Check that hasn't caused you to clench the jaw or hold the breath. Good. And then carefully release the arms down by the side. Bring the foot down. Good. Now, if that version is already a challenge for you, having the foot above the ankle, stay with that. If you have a knee issue, stay with that. But otherwise, we're going to try the fuller version. Same way, you can hold on to the chair for a bit of balance. Turn the left leg out. And then this time, see if you can place the heel of the foot right at the top of the inner right groin. And press the foot into the thigh, the left foot into the right thigh, but resist the right thigh, inner thigh, back into the foot. Now, if your knee is turned forward, think of two things. One is to press into the little toe side of your lifted foot. The other thing is to make sure that your tummy is lifted back towards the spine. See, if that isn't happening, it will tip the pelvis forward and therefore change the hip joint. So you want to try and keep the lower tummy lifted, the buttock engaged in this more classical version of Vrikshasana. And then if you can, you take the left arm up for your balance to increase the balance challenge, and then the right arm up too. Good. Check the jaw is again not gripped, the breath is nice and easy, and again that panoramic vision to help the eyes stay above the heels. Good. And then carefully undo, bring the left foot down, and then bring the chair onto the other side if you're using a chair. So, good idea to use the chair. So some of you can easily do this pose without a chair, but it just helps you sometimes to find the work in other areas. So first thing to do is just for explore, can you bring the weight into the left leg? So not by tilting, not by pushing out into the outer hip. So the right side of the pelvis lifts slightly, and then you see, can you turn the right leg out and bring that foot initially just to rest above the left ankle. And in bringing it up, careful that the hip hasn't pushed into the chair, keeping that outer hip in. And then can you take your right arm up to increase the balance challenge, and then the left arm too. Now I can feel suddenly I'm wanting to fix the eyes on a point to try and stabilise myself, but in a way that actually adversely affects the balance, because it brings the eyes forward in space, tends to do that into the front of the foot. So panoramic vision, good. And then release the arms down by the side. Good. And either repeat that, or let's try the more classical version of the pose. So you start in the same way, pour the weight into the left leg, try to stabilise on that hip, so that buttock is definitely working for you. Turn the right leg out, and then see, can you place the foot to the root of the inner thigh. Now if you can't get it there, make sure it's not pressing into the knee. So if that's happening, have it lower. Protect your knee, and then think first of all, just can you press the right foot into the left inner thigh, hit the inner thigh back into the foot, and if your knee is facing more forward, try to press in particular into the little toe side of the right foot. It will help open out the hip joint. And the other thing to try is keeping the tummy lifted. So you want most of your weight in your standing leg heel. And then can you take your right arm up for a bit of balance? Check that doesn't disturb the breath or the jaw. And then can you take the other arm up into Virabhadrasana? Again, just check the eyes aren't bringing you forward. So panoramic vision. Breath nice and easy. Good. And then release the arms down. Bring the foot back down. And check again that you weren't holding the breath. Now, please turn the chair so the seat of your chair is facing you. Now, this will also depend a little bit on the proportions of your chair. I know some of you haven't got the yoga chairs. For those who are at Living Wing, you're always welcome to go and get one of mine from the village hall. So I'll just show you quickly. I'm going to ask you to stand once again with feet hip distance apart, and then position yourself so that the head of the shin, if possible, is just making light contact with the front edge of your chair. And the idea of that is for the chair just to give you some feedback as we're going to take a breath in and then move the bottom back in space to come into Uttanasana. And the idea here is not to push the shins into the chair. It's the chair is telling you where your shins are in space, so that your bottom moves back, so that you're folding in the hip joints rather than falling into the knee. So have your shins just making contact with the chair. Good. Look forward, breath nice and easy. So, and then take a breath in. As you breathe out, try not to push the shins into the seat of the chair. So if you only go down a little bit, that's absolutely fine, but others will be able to take the bottom further back, looking forward. Check your weight is in both feet, that you've not shifted out onto one hip, and then carefully come back up to standing. So Uttanasana. Good. So just let the breath recover, the breath be nice and the jaw nice and easy. And we'll try that once more. So nice open chest, standing in Tadasana to begin with. Still 80% of the weight in the heels. Vision, still panoramic if possible. And then take a breath in. As you breathe out, think of your bottom going back. So try not to let yourself push into the chair with the shins. See how far back can you take the pelvis, and then carefully come back up to standing. Good. Now, please bring the chair onto the right hand side of your mat, with the seat of your chair facing you. And then stand not too far away from the seat of the chair, and take your feet standing pose distance apart. As we come into this wider leg position, check first of all that the feet are facing forward, that you've not turned the feet out, and the little toe sides of the feet are lined up with the outside edges of your mat. And even here, you're trying still to keep 80% of the weight into the heels. So again, taking the legs wide, will often cause the tummy to push forward, taking you into a back bend, and it's more extension in the lower back. So you want to try and keep that lower tummy back and the buttocks engaged. Good. And then turn your left foot in slightly. Excuse me, turn the left foot in, and you remember from some weeks ago, once that leg has turned in, you think of the inner thigh turning to the outer thigh. The outer calf hitting back behind you, and it's a sense of stretching or moving from the little toe of that back foot to the outer heel. That's the sense of direction in that back leg. And then once you've set that up, turn the right leg all the way out, front heel in line with back heel or arch, and just check. See, I can feel myself wanting to push out into that outer hip. Can you keep the left outer hip sucked in? So we're in Uttanasana. Right leg straight, left leg straight, both inner thighs going to the outer thighs, both little toes. The sense of direction is to the outer heels. And then bring your arms up to shoulder height, not lifting the arms but supporting them from the back. Extend your right arm up towards the ceiling, and then begin to reach out over the chair, and then bring your hand onto the back of the chair if you can, onto the back of the chair, and try to really lengthen out that underneath side. So it's not about going low, it's more about can you lengthen out that underneath side, other hand on the outer hip. And then once there, think of your left elbow, your left shoulder, turning that into the space behind you. So the chest turns towards the ceiling, and then bring your left arm up towards the ceiling. Turn the little thing, the palm towards you, and think, can you reach that overhead towards the other arm? Strong stretch for the upper side as well. Good. Keep breathing, chin tucked in, and then carefully come up out of the pose. And come back into Tadasana. Oh, so I can feel, I'm feeling my left side, well it's my right side actually, but mirroring my left side, suddenly a lot longer on that side. One shoulder I can see is higher than the other. Please bring the chair onto your other side. Have it available. Stand in Tadasana again, just checking once more that the eyes are back, 80% of the weight is in the heels, and then step your feet, standing pose distance apart. So those earlier teaching points, the little toe sides of the feet are parallel to the outside edges of the mat, tummy is lifted, 80% of the weight in the heels, and then turn your right foot in slightly, and once you've turned it in, don't forget about it. Send the attention back into that leg, so you establish inner thigh to outer calf hitting into the space behind you, and a sense of the movement going from the little toe to the outer heel. So even though there's no movement happening, there's a lot of internal movement in that leg. And then keep that as you turn the left leg all the way out to the left and put the front of that foot back down. So the action is both inner thighs turning to the outer thighs, both outer calves hitting back, both little toes to outer heels. Careful you've not pushed out into that outer right hip, so keep that sucked in. Extend the arms to shoulder height. Think of lengthening your left arm towards the ceiling, and then you reach out, to bring the hand onto the seat of the back of the chair, other hand on the outer hip. Now first of all, try to lengthen that underneath arm away from you. You might feel that in that hamstring. I certainly can. And now your right elbow, right shoulder, the chest, turn to the space behind you. So it's that not just the elbow, not just the shoulder, of course, it's the spine that's turning. And then can you extend your right arm towards the ceiling, pausing to turn the palm towards you, and see, can you reach it overhead? Now, if the hands don't touch, it's absolutely fine. Just see where you can comfortably go, but keep the underarm lengthening away at the same time. And then maybe you can turn to look underneath the arm towards the ceiling, but keep the chin in. Good. Keep breathing, keep both legs active. Inhale to carefully come back up. Bring the legs back to standing, and then come back to Tadasana. So please have the seat of the chair facing you once more, just to give you a little bit of relief. Stand with your feet hip distance apart. Start with 80% of the weight in the heels. Have the hands on the hips, so the shoulders slightly rolling back behind you, and look forward, panoramic vision, looking forward, and think of a hook on your breastbone taking you forward to bring the palms down onto the seat of the chair. So the palms should be underneath your shoulders, fingers facing forward, legs are vertical, and the front of the body and the back of the body long. Now, again, if you're finding that you're bending in this mythical joint, the waist, rounding the back, the answer to that is to think of your lower tummy as though you're pushing it down towards the pubic bone. See how that helps to lengthen the front body, and a hook on your breastbone, lengthening it forward. Don't drop into this. Don't drop the belly or the ribs towards the floor. Keep breathing. Keep your thigh muscles lifted and sucked back to the bones for Uttanasana. Good. And then carefully come up with straight legs. So Uttanasana, forward fold. Nice pose to do for the back. And just to challenge our carpal tunnel, this time we're going to do it with the fingers facing backwards. So stand once more facing the seat of the chair. Thigh muscles lifted, 80% of the weight in the heels. Vision broad. And then begin to think of that hook taking the breastbone forward. And this time, see if you can peel the palms down to bring the heel of the hand onto the seat of the chair. Okay, now if you're finding the back is rounded, think of pushing the lower tummy between the legs to help get that length in the front of the body, and look slightly forward. Strong stretch for those forearm muscles. Good. And then carefully come up with straight legs. Now, I'll just show you quickly, we did this a couple of weeks ago I think, turning that into Virabhadrasana 3. So start in the same way, you fold onto the seat of the chair, bring the weight onto the left leg and take your right leg directly behind you. So toes are facing down, that right leg pushing away from you. Now, just have a quick look at the moment, at me for a moment. So I'm just going to show you from behind. So the way that this is often avoided, well, there's a couple of ways. One is when the leg is lifted, what happens is this. The pelvis pushes out into the hip, meaning that there's a shortening going on in the one side. So you want to try and keep lengthen both sides of the waist, and this lifted leg, just careful it doesn't cross over the midline. So you want to keep it lifted, and that side of the pelvis rolling down as opposed to lifted. So I should be able to come and balance a cup of tea on your pelvis in Virabhadrasana 3. So stand facing the seat of your chair, look forward, think of a hook bringing you forward to bring the palms once more underneath your shoulders. And then find the length in the front body first and feel the length in both sides of the body, the weight in both heels, and then lift the right leg straight behind you, toes pointing down at the floor. Now, and if you are hearing me and in the studio, you can always have that lifted leg foot against the wall to give you a bit of extra support. But really try and straighten your right leg. Push the calf into the heel. Careful you've not shortened in the left side to lift the leg. And if you find that you're not balancing the cup of tea, roll the right side of the pelvis down towards the floor. Bring the lifted leg down, bend the knees, look between the knees, and then slowly roll up through the spine to come back up to standing into Tadasana. Just take a moment just to rest. It's a strong pose for the hips, certainly. And then we'll do the other side. So stand facing your chair. Think of a hook on the breastbone, taking the front of the body forward, pushing the tummy towards the pubic bone. Bring the hands down onto the seat of the chair. Again, just work on that lengthening of the front body. And then again, feel the length in both sides of the body. And then take your left leg directly behind you, toes are pointing down. Careful you've not swung the leg over to the other side. And if you feel that your left side of the pelvis is lifted, try to roll it down towards the floor. Good. Keep breathing, keep that back leg lifted, and then bring the back leg down, bend the knees, look between the legs, and roll up through the spine to come back up to standing. So Uttanasana into Virabhadrasana 3, and of course what we're going to do now is take it into, given it was a pink moon last night, into Ardha Chandrasana. So let me just quickly show you. You'll probably find it helpful if you've got a hard chair to have a blanket on the seat of the chair. And I'll just show you quickly. So I'm going to stand, come once more into Uttanasana. Take your, it'd be the left leg behind you. And then you bring the right forearm onto the seat of the chair, left hand on the outer hip. And that imaginary cup of tea, you're going to chuck off you so it falls into the space behind you. Back leg lifted hip height and active, and you turn the chest towards the ceiling and see if you can take the left arm up. Good. For Ardha Chandrasana. Odd pose, I can't resist. So if you get the equipment ready, I'll talk you through as if I'm not mirroring, otherwise life gets too complicated if I do that. So you stand facing the seat of your chair, feet are hip distance apart, look forward, come into Uttanasana again, so keep the thigh muscles and kneecaps lifted as you do that. Take your left leg directly behind you back into Virabhadrasana 3, toes are initially pointing down. Bring your right forearm down onto the seat of the chair. Left hand goes onto the outer hip. Now think that cup of tea that was on your pelvis, you're going to chuck it off. So the left side of the pelvis lifts up towards the ceiling and your left toes are now facing forward. Just try and turn the chest towards the ceiling so your left elbow goes into the space behind you, and then see if you can take the left arm up. But careful, sorry to pick on anyone, but Jane, and I know, don't throw that left arm behind you. Keep it in line with the collarbone, chin tucked in slightly. Keep breathing, keep reaching through the legs and through the arms, and then carefully bring the leg back down with the knees both now bent. Look between the knees, lift up through the tummy, just slowly roll up through the spine to come back up to standing. Now you can keep your chair where it is. I'm just going to change it to the other side so I can keep looking at the screen as we do this. Come up to standing. Notice how that Ardha pose feels on the one side. And then stand facing the seat of your chair again. Feet hip distance apart. Look forward, still with panoramic vision. Eyes are floating above the heels. Right eye above the right heel, left eye above the left heel. And then fold forward, bring your hands down onto the seat of the chair. Again, check you're not rounded in the back, so you push the tummy towards the pubic bone, breastbone lengthening forward. And then take your right leg back into Virabhadrasana Three, toes are pointing down. Visualize that cup of tea balanced on your sacrum. And then bring your left forearm down onto the seat of the chair, right hand onto the outer hip. Now you need to lift the right side of the pelvis up to chuck the cup of tea behind you. Right toes are now facing forward, right hand on the outer hip. And now see, can you turn the chest towards the ceiling, keep the chin tucked in slightly. Extend the right arm up without throwing it behind you. Good. And then bring the leg back down. Bend the knees, look between the knees. Lift up through the tummy to slowly roll up through the spine. Ardha Chandrasana, one of my favourite poses, particularly that version of it. Great also to do it using a wall. Now I'm just going to show you this pose next. Many of you know it from when we were in the village hall, but normally when we're in the village hall we would have the chair resting against a wall. So, and in the studio, that's a great thing to do, to have the chair resting against the wall, maybe with a blanket over it, just to stop it wobbling. You can do it without a wall, but you have to be a little bit more careful that the chair isn't going to fly away from you. So that's why let me show you it first, okay? So you're standing facing your chair, feet are hip distance apart. You fold forward again, and this time you can either have the same hand position as with Uttanasana, or you can take hold, depending on the kind of the chair you've got, of the outside seat of the chair. So I'm going to have my palms initially on the seat of the chair. And then come up onto the balls of your feet. So it's coming up onto the balls of the feet. So what that does, it lifts the pelvis obviously high. And then you keep on the balls of the feet as you walk back. See how the arms slant forward, and the head comes, the ears come between the upper arms. So I'm still on the balls of the feet. And I try and let my heels descend towards the floor, but keep pushing the lower tummy between the legs to try and lift the sit bones up behind you. Now, don't let the head drop between the arms. Keep the ears between the upper arms. You just have to be careful that you're not sliding the chair away from you. And then to come out of this, you look forward, step back towards the seat of the chair, release the head looking between the knees, and lift up through the tummy to carefully come back up to standing. So again, it's one of my favourite versions of Adho Mukha Shavasana. It's a very nice one. It takes the weight out of the arms, a lot of the weight out of the arms, and it helps to get this flexibility in the shoulders. Take it easy at home if you're testing the physics of your chair in relationship to your floor surface, mat surface. You don't want the chair to shoot away from you. So at your own risk, please. So stand facing the seat of the chair. You can try the different, we'll be doing it a couple of times, so you can try the different hand positions. And then fold forward again as if doing Uttanasana. Position the hands. Good. Now again, just work on lengthening the front body. So I push the lower tummy between the legs to help lift the sit bones. And come onto the balls of your feet. So the legs are straight, but you're on the balls of the feet. Okay, and begin to walk back, staying on the balls of your feet. Staying on the balls of the feet until your ears come between the upper arms. That's it. And then just try to keep lifting the sit bones up towards the ceiling as you let the heels stretch down towards the floor. Again, don't drop the head. Keep the ears between the upper arms. Keep breathing, keep breathing, keep breathing. Good. And then look forward and then step back to the chair. Keep the head looking down as you roll up through the spine to come up. Now, just have a quick look at me for a minute. So what sometimes tends to happen in any Adho Mukha Shavasana, but in the chair version as well, is in walking out, this is what happens. The shoulders bunch up to the ears. So it's that same action that we had with Ardha Chandrasana arms. As you're walking back, you're trying to make sure the outer upper arms are cutting down towards the floor, that the elbows aren't effectively lifting up towards the ceiling. So let's have another go at that. Again, if you're lucky enough to have a piece of wall that you can rest the chair against to give you more stability, then it's a good idea to do that. But let's assume we're living dangerously. So stand facing the seat of your chair. Keep the shoulders slightly drawn together. Panoramic vision again. And then fold forward to bring the hands onto the seat of the chair. Come onto the balls of your feet. Begin to walk back, staying on the balls of the feet till the ears come between the upper arms. Outer upper arms hitting down towards the floor. Try to push the lower tummy towards the pubic bone. Allow the heels to release towards the floor. Keep lengthening the chair through the arms towards the chair to help the buttocks reach behind you. Keep breathing, keep breathing, keep breathing. And then look forward and step back towards the chair. Keep the knees bent, look down, and then slowly roll up through the spine to come back up to standing. Good. Now, just going to add something to that. So if you, again, just watch for a moment. So we're going to start in exactly the same way. So fold forward, step back on the balls of the feet, and come once more into Adho Mukha Shavasana. Then from here you look forward, come up onto the balls of the feet again, and then bring your shoulders over the wrists to come into this version of Chaturanga Dandasana. As the shoulders come over the wrist, you have to keep pushing down into the chair, because you don't want you don't want it to be a back bend. It's not Urdhva Mukha, it's more a version of Chaturanga. And then you would come back. But when you come forward, when I'm coming forward, I'm doing this. I'm squeezing my bottom, and I'm pulling all my tummy muscles in as if I have a couple of belts around me, but pulling me back. So I'm being, so to stop this going suddenly into the back, it's a strong buttock contraction, and I'm thinking of those belts pulling my ribs up towards the ceiling. So my tummy muscles are what are holding me up, not my back muscles. And then you lift the hips high to come back into Adho Mukha. We'll come forward again. We'll do that 3 times, and then we'll step back to have a rest. So Adho Mukha into a version of Chaturanga Dandasana to work all this area. So stand facing the seat of your chair, feet are hip distance apart, and then fold forward. Take whichever grip suits you and your wrist. Work on lengthening the front body first. Come up onto the balls of your feet. Walk back into your best Adho Mukha Shavasana now. So all those earlier teaching points apply. Just take a few breaths in Adho Mukha. Good. And now begin to look forward. You allow the heels to lift, to come up onto the balls of the feet again, and allow your shoulders to move over the wrists, but you think your tummy is super engaged, the buttocks are engaged, so you're being pulled up towards the ceiling from those belts around the ribs. Keep breathing, keep pushing into the chair, and then lift the hips high and back behind you. So come back into Adho Mukha, breathe here, come forward again into this version of Chaturanga, so it's not in the back, it's your tummy and buttocks are working like crazy. Lift the hips high and back as you undo into Adho Mukha Shavasana. Have a few breaths here. And then come forward again. Pull your ribs into the back of your t-shirt. Pull the tummy in. Grip the buttocks together like crazy. Keep breathing, and then lift the hips high and back behind you to settle back once more into Adho Mukha Shavasana, which feels a little bit like light relief after that Chaturanga. And then look forward, step forward, keep the knees bent as you look between the tummy, and lift up through the tummy to bring yourself back into Tadasana. Well done. Come and have a sit on the chair. Have a seat on the chair. Good. And sit towards the front edge of your chair. So not in the back of the chair. My chair actually needs to be a bit higher actually, because can you see my knees are actually above my hips, and ideally my hips should be level with my knees or a little bit higher. So how can I improve that? I can have a block to do that. Good. And then once you're sitting sitting on your support. Good. Think of your our mirror again. Right knee going back slightly, left knee slightly forward, and turn to your right. So the left hand goes on to the right outer knee, other hand can either take hold of the back of the chair, if you've got one of these, the seat of the chair, wherever you can comfortably reach, and press your left hand into the right outer knee, push or pull with the other hand to improve this twist as you look towards the space behind you. Now, as you've gone into this twist, just if you look at me, careful, this hasn't happened. See? Shortening in one side, lengthening in the other. You want to keep that lower tummy pushing down towards the pubic bone to take the twist. Good. And then carefully come back to the front position, and then we'll go to the other side. So there's a slight movement of the left knee back, right knee forward, feet stay in place. Turn, so your right hand goes onto the left outer knee, other hand catches wherever it can on the chair to assist you, and you press the right palm into the left outer knee, push or pull with the other hand to take the twist to the left without rolling off the sit bones, keeping the weight evenly distributed. Good. And then come back to centre. Barrow Bajasana is a seated twist, one version of it anyway. It's a nice undoing pose. Let's do it once more to the right. So right knee shoots back slightly, left knee forward. You bring the left palm onto the right outer knee, other hand behind you. So, and again, if you're just seeing me on the screen, careful you've not pushed out onto the right sit bone, turning it into a back bend. You want to keep the weight in both sit bones, and you press with the left hand on the right outer knee, other hand behind you, as you turn the head and eyes to their full potential. Now keep everything turned, but bring the head and eyes on the horizon to look forward to do our Victoria Beckham pose. And then come back. Good. And then we'll go to the other side. So left knee shoots back, right knee forward, right hand onto the left outer knee, other hand behind you. First of all, turn the head and eyes as fully as you can without strain on the horizon to the left. Keep everything turned, but just bring the head and eyes to look forward over the right shoulder, ready for the paparazzi. And then carefully undo. Good. Now, just come off the chair for a moment, and then have a blanket nearby. So I've got one of the thicker yoga mats. I know some of you have got these too at home, but some of you are probably using the thinner yoga mats. It depends what's underneath the mat. So I've got a hard floor. So I'm having a folded blanket to put underneath my knees and shins. Okay, now, just as you're setting up, I'll show you this. And what you're going to do is kneel if possible, facing the seat of the chair. And when I kneel facing the seat of the chair, I've got a fist distance between my knees. So they're not together, there's a fist distance between the knees. My knees are sort of more or less underneath the front edge of the chair. Then I'm going to ask you to bring the hands onto the chair, and then come up onto the knees effectively. So toes are pointed, coming up onto the knees. Now again, if you just look at me for a second, to help with this, I think of pressing the lower legs, the tops of the feet down into the floor. Press them down. That helps to bring the hips and the buttocks forward. And then you think of squeezing, contracting the buttocks together to help open the hip joints. I'm trying, in fact, to push my pubic bone into the seat of the chair, and then come back. Quite often, because we sit so much, what happens is when people come up, they're in this position still. Can you see where the hip joints are closed? So it's really, can you press the lower legs down, squeeze the buttocks together to try and press the pubic bone into the front edge of the chair. Good. And then see if you can sit back down on the heels. Now, just let me show you this, if you can, just whilst you're resting. I'm going to ask you to come up again in the same way, and then bring the hands onto the back of the chair, and then think of lifting the chest, the breastbone, towards the ceiling to get a gentle extension in the spine. So I'm not trying to see the ceiling, but I am trying to look kind of above the door that's in front of me to get a gentle extension in the spine, and then come back down. Just a gentle version of Uttanasana, camel pose. So when you're ready, look forward, have the hands on the seat of the chair, press the lower legs down as you come onto the knees if possible, squeeze the buttocks to press the pubic bone into the front edge of the chair, have the hands on the back of the chair if that's possible for you, and think as though that cup of tea is resting on the top of your breastbone, and you're just trying to lift it up towards the ceiling. So it will cause the head to go back slightly, and I'm just not trying to see the ceiling, I'm trying to look somewhere up the top of the wall that's in front of me, still with panoramic vision, and then carefully come and rest back down. Uttanasana. Just have a rest for a moment. And then let's do it one more time. So again, face the seat of your chair, have the hands on the seat of the chair. Press the shins down, so all the tops of the toes, you're pressing down into trying to push the floor away from you, to really engage the gluteal areas, to open the front of the hips. Pubic bone, trying to press into the seat of the chair. Bring the hands higher on the back of the chair if it permits. And think there's a cup of tea on your breastbone, and you're just trying to lift it up towards the ceiling. But keep the buttocks engaged, don't let them switch off, and just try and see up the wall in front of you. Don't try and see the ceiling, it will do something very different. Vision broad, jaw nice and relaxed, breathing, keep pressing both feet down into the floor. Good. And then carefully come and sit down. Good. Now, just come up and once more sit on the front edge of your chair. Sit front of the chair. So I'll take that supporting on the front edge of your chair. Now, if you have a blanket, have it so I have to open it so it's a thin blanket, and see if you can, as though you're just tucking yourself in. Have it on the thighs, not too thick. So if you need to undo it, don't be shy about undoing it. Just a thinly folded blanket, And then see if you can slide the hands forward and allow yourself to slide the hands down the lower leg, and then release the head. Release the head. Just keep breathing, breathing, breathing. You perhaps feel the lengthening of the lower back muscles as you come into this. Good. And then bring one hand onto one knee, other hand onto the other knee, and support yourself as you carefully come back up to standing, up to sitting rather. Just notice how that feels. And then let's just repeat that again. So you just bring the hands forward, slide them down the lower legs. Let the head go. So quite often the back of the head is still lifted. It's as if the back of the head is going to fall, tumble down towards the floor. Breathe here. Keep pressing the feet into the floor. And then once more, walk the hands up the legs. Use the arms, just support the back and out of that extreme position to come back up to sitting. Good. Now, please prepare yourself with Shavasana. I'm going to do Shavasana with my legs resting on the seat of the chair. The seat of the chair. So it's a nice thing to do after that back extension work we were doing. If you have a settee available, you can always rest them on the settee, and you come into Shavasana with the back down. Have a blanket, thinly folded blanket underneath the head, just to keep length in the back of the neck. If you wear glasses, I'd probably take them off for the Shavasana if it's safe for you to do so. And either you can have the hands resting on the tummy. Better though, if you can, is to have them a little bit down by the side, but a little bit out to the side for the more classical arm position for Shavasana. But if you remember the work from last week, think that tucking the shoulder blades into the back of the body. And your blanket, if you're using one underneath the head, can be underneath the neck and the head. Don't let it creep underneath the shoulders, pushing those forward. Think of keeping the chin tucked in slightly. Allow the eyes to really float back towards the floor, to the base of the skull. Soft eyes, not trying to see anything, even though the eyes may be closed. And then allow your attention to just really come to the breath. So just beginning to embrace your inhalations, embrace your exhalations. Allow the jaw to soften, cheeks to soften, the palms and the soles of the feet too. Check you're not gripping the abdomen. Now slowly begin to wriggle the fingers and toes. Bring your feet towards the front edge of the chair. Just use your hands to very gently pull the thighs towards the torso. And then roll yourself just to rest on one side. So don't lift up yet, just come to rest on one side, supporting the head in the arm or on the blanket or block. And then see if you can use your arms to support you to come into sitting, but without disturbing your breath, the pattern of your breath. And then please come to sit just in an easy cross-legged swastikasana, once more facing the front. Bring the palms into Namaskarasana. Close the eyes. And then bring the forehead down. Release the hands on an inhalation, slowly open the eyes and look up. Thank you very much everybody. See you next week.